I'd like to invite up both Christian Cowen and Chase Hogoboom. And Congressman Cicilline introduced them a few minutes ago, but I'm going to give you kind of the formal bio, if you will. First of all, Christian Cowen, he is the Center Director of Polaris MEP. He's a senior executive with more than 20 years experience in technical manufacturing operations and marketing in the IT, networking, energy, and flexible and textile industries. Christian was most recently the Director of Global Product Management, OpenGear, a provider of out-of-band IT management solutions. Previously, he served as the Vice President of Marketing for Azure Software, a leading vendor of cloud computing time management software services, and as product manager at A123 Systems. So as you can see, Christian has a great background in manufacturing. In addition to Christian, we'd like to introduce his client that is with him today to tell the client story. Chase Hogoboom, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, good, is the president of Goats Composites. Is that correct? Chase brings an educational blend of business and shop floor experience to his position as president, and he began on the shop. This is the great thing. I was reading through the bios, and I love this little tidbit. Chase actually began on the shop floor with an internship at the company he now runs in his senior year in high school. And I thought that was the greatest thing because you can really see how entering into this business, even as right out of high school or as an internship, that you can actually grow and look where it gets you. So I thought that was just, that's my favorite tidbit, sorry. He followed up his year with that year with the firm as a composite technician after graduating from Brown University. As you know, he went from here and just kept taking it further and further with a degree in economics. So I welcome both of them, and I look forward to hearing both of their stories from the center perspective and, of course, the client's perspective as well.
So I thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate it. I also want to thank Congressman Cicilline. He's a huge supporter here in D.C. of our program, but he's also really engaged on the streets with a lot of the businesses in Rhode Island. So he's not only an incredible advocate here, but he's very supportive and engaged with the businesses in Rhode Island. So I'm incredibly thankful for him coming here today, as well as his support ongoing. I also want to thank Dr. Eberts for the Upjohn Institute for a study that really puts data to the thing that I think we're also passionate about here in the MEP program. So it's great to see the numbers justify what we all know is true here in the MEP system. So I'm going to keep my comments short because Chase really is here to talk about his company and the fantastic things they're doing, and that's really the important things. So I've been in as a center director for Polaris for the past 3 years. I just want to paint the picture of what's going on in Rhode Island, both from a technology standpoint, manufacturing, and our MEP system. So talk a little bit about the landscape very quickly. Congressman Cicilline mentioned the Brookings Institute. Our governor has really embraced manufacturing, which is even providing more power and acceleration into into our industry. A little bit what's going on with defense in Rhode Island, and some workforce development programs that I think are some of the most innovative in the country. So a little bit about Rhode Island and manufacturing. The byline for this can be Rhode Island's a small state. We are a small state with small manufacturing companies. So 95% of our manufacturing companies in the state of Rhode Island are less than 100 employees. So we're certainly small manufacturers that are supporting large manufacturers from a supply chain standpoint. Rhode Island, if you didn't know, has a rich heritage in manufacturing. So back in 1793, Samuel Slater in Rhode Island started the Industrial Revolution, and Slater Mill is still active and going today in terms of supporting the manufacturing community. So I have the privilege of going around and visiting many of those 1,600 manufacturing companies in the state. I talk to them all every day of the week and understand things that are going on, things that they need, and I understand the evolution that these companies are going through from back up until kind of the mid-1900s. Textiles and jewelry and boat building were really the mainstay and the anchor of the entire economy in Rhode Island. So I continually work with and hear the evolution of these companies as they figure out how to grow and change. And far and away, workforce development is the #1 thing that these companies ask for. So it's a need that exists today, and they're also concerned about the future as they continue to grow their companies. So back in 2015, it was released in 2016, a 2015-16 report. Our state, Rhode Island, engaged with the Brookings Institute to do an analysis for a competitive strategy for the state and how to grow. There were two of the basic recommendations coming from Brookings were a focus around design, food, and custom manufacturing, and defense, shipbuilding, and maritime. Rhode Island has a very unique heritage and infrastructure of manufacturing and design. We have probably the best design school in the country of the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, and the injection of the RISD design thinking into these manufacturing companies are really helping them break the mold and get out into different things. And the Brookings Institute really recognized that and suggested that not only do we leverage what's going on from a design thinking standpoint in the state, but also how that takes these manufacturers to the next step. And from a defense, shipbuilding, and maritime standpoint, really Brookings came out and said Electric Boat and the Quonset shipyard really provide some capabilities that are unmatched in the country. And that really feeds into that demographic that I had mentioned before, where we have a tremendous supply chain, some of which certainly is feeding into the large defense prime. So those were two of the big recommendations coming from Brookings, which directly feed into a lot of the discussions that we're having today. So Governor Raimondo she tells her story all the time. Her father worked in a manufacturing company. She grew up at the dinner table talking about manufacturing and the importance of building an economy. So as such, she has really made manufacturing a main pillar of her administration. And just a few months ago, in 2017, she announced the Rhode Island Manufacturing Initiative. And at that core is the Polaris MEP Center. There are two key tenets around her manufacturing initiative, and they're around economic development and workforce development, training, and education. Historically, in the past 2 years, while I've been here and the governor has been in her position, she has tested, and the state has tested some programs rolling out to the companies. And you'll see that second bullet point there is something called innovation vouchers. So the governor came up with this idea where smaller manufacturers that did not have R&D capability could have R&D paid for at universities. My favorite story, to take a little bit of a tangent, there is a metal machining manufacturing company in Providence that had one of his customers come to him and ask if he could merge his products with some electronics, kind of couple them together. They are, for anyone that's been in a metal machining factory, he is kind of old school, third generation company. He had no capabilities to do electronics, prototyping, testing, and validation at all. He's now married up with a URI R&D professor, and they're doing tests to actually see some viability to take his company from, again, third generation metal machining company into something where we're injecting technology in. Polaris was in the center of that. Great from an MEP program, super exciting for me because of great technological discussions and fun, not only from a technology product standpoint, but how to really take his company to the next level. And that's generally what this manufacturing initiative in Rhode Island is looking to do, is to take these companies and move them into the next level. A lot of advanced manufacturing discussions and a lot of technology infusion discussions into these companies. So very quickly about the defense industry in Rhode Island. I had mentioned the Brookings Institute recognized this as one of the key growth areas and important for programs to support those growth areas going forward. Polaris is part of right now the second phase of an OEA grant where we have had an overwhelming amount of interest into participating in this program where we're trying to take manufacturers and take them up to the next level. Again, supporting almost 33,000 jobs and adding almost $4 billion to the state economic output. This is a key cornerstone of what's going on in the state of Rhode Island and really across the country. And our ability has been a lot of fun in order to tie in the manufacturers and support a lot of the prime defense contractors with some of our programs. And one more kind of quick tangential story as an example. There's a company in Providence called Goodwin Bradley who makes, they call them patterns. They're molds for the automotive and the aviation industry. They started engaging with Polaris because they had some problems getting product through their company. We helped them out. Because of some of the efficiencies, they started winning some more contracts. As a result of doing business with Polaris, they have recognized $450,000 worth of increased sales, $100,000 in cost savings, and 25% increase in staff. This was a 30-person company that is now growing, and then we're now helping them put an addition on their building. So again, Polaris kind of being at the center of all of these fantastic things going into Rhode Island kind of gets me excited to get up in the morning and integrate with a lot of these great companies that are growing in the state. Another aspect that the state is pushing forward is what I consider to be probably the most innovative workforce partnership program in the country. Rhode Island has a program called Real Jobs Rhode Island, and there are two really key tenets to this program. One is it's employer driven, so there are programs that are kicked off when employers have need and the programs fill those needs. So employers are at the table every day helping craft these programs. And the second tenet is there are workforce intermediaries. So Polaris is the workforce intermediary for the manufacturing industry. So we help convene employers, get them around the table, craft workforce development programs up, and our Department of Labor and Training in Rhode Island then launches and funds these programs. It's been hugely successful in the state and very well received from an employer standpoint. It's a bit turning things into way more proactive than reactive, and is now pushing into the educational system where the K through 12 as well as post-secondary educational system are sort of grabbing onto this model here in the state and really pulling employers into the table to make sure that the programs that are being developed in the schools are appropriate for where these companies are today and where they're going in the future. So I appreciate listening to me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be with Polaris because there are some fantastic things going on locally in the state of Rhode Island and then nationally as well as on a national level from a manufacturing viewpoint. And I just want to turn it over to Chase to make sure that he gives his point of view in terms of what's going on with GERTS.
Well, thanks, and thank you, Carrie, for putting this all together. It's pretty excellent. I'm very passionate about the programs that MEP offers and can feel very strongly that we would not be doing what we're doing now without them. So a little bit of background on the marine sector in Rhode Island. Christian mentioned a few of the sectors that used to be very strong in the state, and marine was one of them. In fact, Rhode Island was a pioneer in developing a lot of technologies for the marine industry. However, in the last recession, it was a problem, and the marine industry was particularly hit, and a group of us got together and said, okay, well, here are some of our strengths, and we're really good in composites and developing those technologies, and at the same time, there is a lot of growth that's happening in many other industries, and their particular demand and growing need for composites in whatever their application might be. So here's a list of different industries that are starting to increase their demand for composite components and the different sectors that various companies in Rhode Island are paying attention to. So, but the cool thing is Polaris's involvement with the Composites Alliance. So as an alliance, we've identified different areas that we want to focus on to grow the industry as a whole in the state. And those areas here, workforce development, some higher ed, and then some different industry sectors like architecture, infrastructure, and defense. And you can see around around the circle here, there are many different groups, some government, some education, some public-private organizations, but what's in common across the board is Polaris. And that is pretty special because what it does is it allows for very efficient communication between these groups as well as other sectors in the government, as well as the opportunity for cross-pollination. And Christian mentioned the example with the electronics company and the machine shop. And that would not be possible without Polaris being in the middle of it all. Today, specifically, we're talking about workforce development and jobs. As a company, we're extremely passionate about and excited about hiring a diverse workforce, and another word for that might be at risk. I mean, our goal is to lower the unemployment rate in this country as low as possible. And as that unemployment rate goes down, it's going to be more and more challenging to keep those people employed. And Polaris, through their systems that they've been teaching us, have helped us manage that risk. So here's just a little bit about our company. We're a small manufacturing company in different industries that we serve, infrastructure, marine, defense. But here's a little snapshot. So in the past two years, we've hired 50 people, and 10% of those people have been design administrative, but 40% have been advanced manufacturing jobs, or 40 of the jobs, so greater percentage, been advanced manufacturing jobs. 70% of those advanced manufacturing jobs are people who have had no experience whatsoever. So these are people who were on unemployment or very much underemployed that we've hired and given living wages to. We've developed training programs to train our employees to do very, very complicated things. And as a result of their engagement with us and the projects we're involved with, the retention rate is higher than if we were to hire experienced people, experienced employees. So anyway, just again, hiring people who are on unemployment is risky, and the lower the unemployment rate goes, the more riskier it's going to become. Polaris has been giving us the tools necessary to manage that risk and really understand it. And then, of course, there are other quality systems that they've helped us adopt, which manage risk as well. So here are just some examples of some of the programs that Polaris MEP has helped with. This is a training matrix where it really helps us identify different employees, the skills that they have experience in, and where we need to focus our attention. So you can see here the green are fields that people have experience in, and everything else, white, red, and yellow, there's no experience. So these are all pretty complicated tasks that we have our employees do. And so the training part of it's critical. And then here, just another chart of identifying which employees need different types of training. So that's what Polaris MEP has been helping us with. And these are some examples of some pretty incredible things that people we've been hiring, this diverse workforce, at-risk workforce, has been helping us do. So this is all pre-preg carbon equipment that we're building. This is a 70-foot catamaran. It's a boat that weighs about 10,000 pounds. So maybe a little bit more than a Suburban, but it's quite a bit bigger, obviously. So here's an electric boat that we're developing that is very high-tech, next generation. And again, it's being built by people who we hired off of unemployment, people who I would certainly put in the at-risk category, but we were able to manage that risk through the systems that Polaris MEP has taught us to do and implement, and it's working out. Here's just another example of just how terrific this is that we're building. It's an electric boat, and just a little comparable comparison, to move 12 people on this boat 25 miles using electricity purchased off the Block Island wind farm costs about $10, whereas if you're to do it with a competitor's boat, it'd be about $37. So about a third the cost in power and no emissions. But again, this is all possible by the people that we've hired and trained through the Polaris MEP program. And then here are just other examples of non-marine items that we've built. Some stuff for the amusement park industry, and then architectural examples as well. So anyway, just we're very appreciative of the MEP programs and what they've done and taught us, and looking forward to continued involvement with the program. Thank you.